pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Commissioner Kirshen. Here. Commissioner Helen. Commissioner DeLarge. Mr. Lux. Here. And Commissioner Brusney. Here. So we got 3 out of 5 people on the committee here, so we have a quorum. Is there anybody here wishing to address the committee? Seeing no one here. There is no speakers present today. Next item is item 4, approval of the June 2nd meeting summary. Oh, that was from July. Hold on. Approval of the July 2nd and the July 7th, 2023 meeting summaries. I reviewed both of them. I don't see any. Do we have a motion to accept them?
Do we have the summaries included in the papers we just got?
No, they're not in the handout from the,
They aren't in this handout, but they were on the,
they
think
were
they're
on the
posted.
read aheads. So if you want to take a minute or two to go ahead and look at these.
Well, I move to approve this meeting summaries.
Move to approve. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Somebody that says aye.
Aye. A.
Am I supposed to do that?
Sure.
This is all new to me.
You're a member now.
Okay, agenda item A, review of the incorporation of recorders handouts from the 2023 EIC meeting into the flow chart. So I included as background information the 2 handouts that the recorder's office presented in July to the EIC. And I just want to see if they've been included in the flow chart and what we need to do to get them included in the flow chart, because it is part of the electoral process. So, Jeremy, did we get this slide deck that the recorder presented? Were we able to incorporate that into the flow chart?
We did not, well, certain aspects of it are in the
Okay.
flow chart.
Where at?
So, in the ballot process, continued would be the very beginning of it.
Early ballot process?
Which is, oh, yeah, we got page numbers now.
Page?
3.
Page 3.
And then there's another section that deals with early ballot processing, which is pages 9 and 10.
Okay. Okay, so what was included and what was not included? Can you step us through where we put these?
So as far as the early ballot processing part, what would be included from this is basically just the last couple slides with turnover, because that's where this starts. It would also, for example, on page 9, when the flow chart, it's much more basic. So early ballots are received by the recorder's office. Recorder's office verifies all early ballot envelopes with signature verification. They note who returned early ballots, they retain certain ones, accept other ones, and send them over to us. So that's basically an overview of what all of these slides break down more.
Okay. So we have so I'd like to see is getting this incorporated into the flow chart. I mean, so what you're saying, Jeremy, is only the last couple slides in the slide deck have been incorporated?
So all of, not exactly, so all of these are essentially incorporated. The flow chart is just much broader. So here, early ballots, they're received by the recorder's office. The recorder's office verifies them through signature verification. This is on page 9 of the flow chart. This is essentially a summary of what this is. So on the slide, when they say the ballot process, they pick them up, they open the envelopes, pull the white envelopes out of the yellow envelopes, scan them in, do signature verifying. They talk about their multiple checks, what they do with unresolved ballots, and then the turnover.
Okay, so if I'm looking at page 9, where I'm seeing early ballots are received by the recorder's office, and it goes down to the recorder's office, verifies ballot envelopes, signature verification. So what I'm seeing from the slide deck that the recorder gave us is slides 3, 4, and 5, envelope separation. Ballot affidavits are currently scanned a handful of times in two-person opposite teams. Okay, so all of that, all of these first slides 3, 4, 5, and 6 are happening in between the early ballots received and verification.
Yes.
So this is slides 3 through 5 from recorders, July slide deck.
Jeremy, I know you're not from the recorder's office, but what's missing for me here is the undeliverable ballots that come back. Do you have any idea what the process is? I understood that it was when they get returned ballots, those are the undeliverable ballots. Those undeliverable ballots go over to Stone, and they're processed over there.
They may, that's their
You don't know
office,
that
so I
for
don't want to
sure.
speak for.
Yeah, that's one of our outstanding questions, but I think,
Okay.
I think Gabriella, or it was Hillary that talked about that. I just didn't see it here anywhere, but I think we ought to have a little something or other here in the chart to just kind of show what happens to those.
Okay.
So we'll have to get a hold of them, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's a big one, because, in terms of the ballots that might go there, we need to know what that process is,
Yep.
And ultimately, I believe they get disposed. I'm not sure that they're supposed to do that, but I don't know.
Pima County. It would be undeliverable ballots, might be from people who are no longer in Pima County.
Well, no, if there's addresses, there are just and tons of duplicate addresses out there. And particularly apartment buildings. I mean, I've heard stories where you can walk into an apartment building, there are just ballots laying on the floor. Because, particularly with students, they're more transient. So they register to vote, a ballot gets sent to their previous location, and no one picks it up. But it's a potential for an issue, with the ballots, in terms of somebody could fill it out, scribble a signature on there, and then boom, it gets accepted. So they're supposed to start that NVRA process if they get an undeliverable ballot. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's a big.
Yeah, I got
deal
that written
here.
down, so we'll capture
Yeah.
that in item C.
Okay.
So going back to 9, on the flow chart, so we go through ballot scanning, and it looks like that goes on before signature verification. So is this ballot scanning, or is this scanning the envelope?
It would be the envelope. They're not touching the ballot itself. They never see that. We're the ones who actually open the
This is the
envelope.
ballot envelope scanning.
The number 6 is.
Affidavit,
Scanning and not ballot.
affidavit envelope. So, when they say affidavit, they're referring to the read envelope. So the title saying ballot scanning should probably read ballot affidavit envelope scanning or something like that.
Okay. So that's going on in, also, in between when it's received by the recorder's office and when we go through signature verification, so we can add 6 into there. So, to add to the flow chart, might want to put in that early ballots on that first one, on that first block there on page 9, Jeremy. Add in, the first part of the ballot process. Ballots are picked up by couriers. You do the envelope milling, kind of like a little bulleted thing underneath the main
Yeah,
portion
drop
of that.
a couple of them in there and basically.
Envelope separation, ballot envelope scanning. And so then we drop down to signature verification. So that is slide 7. Okay, signature verifiers who can't confirm identity take the problem ballot affidavit to a second checker. The second checker either accepts or rejects the signature and explains to the first checker why they made that decision. Signature is rejected, includes a form explaining why it's being sent to the ballot resolution team. So we don't have anything in here at all about a ballot resolution team.
No, I mean, that's part of signature verification for them, but I could definitely add, something there in between, I guess, the second and third. Step of the flow chart, just explaining that.
So then it'd have to go to then you also have unresolved ballots so these are the ones that go to the ballot resolution team. And do we have a process anywhere in the flow chart for slide number 9, Jeremy, do you know? I didn't see anything on the process at the records.
So in 9,
Oh, look, we got a lot of stuff in 10.
on page 9, that sort of bullets at the bottom left, that's essentially the recorder retains ballots which are not accepted, contacts voters to correct deficiencies, then circles back up to that. That is basically.
Okay. So a lot of this is in slide 9 right here. Ballots are returned to the ballot room.
slides 9, 10, and 11, basically that bottom of 9 on the flow chart.
Okay. So it looks like what the recorder presented us is pretty much captured in this flow chart in some form or fashion. Maybe not in the detail. Any more discussion on this? Arthur, Tim? Good? Okay.
The only thing that I really have is, under signature verification, it says if the second checker agrees. But then down below, they have another full slide that says second checking. So I don't know if this one up in signature verification has anything to do with second checking. I think it is. It's just kind of confusing if you see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's a recorder thing. But
Yeah, I got like slide 8 would be in between, if you look at page 9 of the flow chart, in between steps 2 and 3.
yeah.
Oh, no, that's under signature verification. So there could be a box coming off of that second box to the right to the second checker. If it's rejected, it includes a form explaining why it's sent to the ballot resolution team. So the ballot resolution team is down there in the lower left, the second one up, correct? Hmm? Okay, so do we know in the recorder notes which voters have returned early ballots? So in the recorder notes, do we know if it's includes accepted and unaccepted ballots? Ones that go to the problem ballot affidavit to the second checker, and ones that are accepted the first time through? Do we have any idea? You see what I'm saying?
Not exact, so they go through the second check, there's still a problem with them, they go to the ballot resolution team,
Yeah, it goes down to the left, so the recorder retains ballots which are not accepted. But in the third block down on page 9, recorder notes which voters have returned early ballots.
Yes.
Is that an unaccepted ballots? Or just the accepted ballots?
So all they turn over to us, of course, are the accepted ballots.
Yeah.
They keep all of that. Like, they know who turned in a ballot that was not accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
As far
I'm
as
just saying,
the flow chart.
recorder notes, so somewhere the recorder notes which voters have returned early ballots. I just
Okay.
want to know if it's all the ones that have passed signature verification only, or if it's a cumulative past signature verification and have not passed signature verification at that point, before they get turned over to you.
Okay. I mean, they would know right then because they're still in the process of contacting those who had an issue to try to get that resolved. So I guess that would be somewhere in there.
Okay, so that's a question there.
Well, there's a box down below that, though, that says recorder retains ballots which are not accepted. So I think that's where the split is. They either keep them for one reason or another because they still have to verify signature or do something, there's an issue, or they just send it over into the batch that ends up going to you guys for tabulation.
Yeah, I guess, looking at the flow chart, it might make more sense to flip the order of those two boxes.
Of which two?
So at the left bottom, recorder retains ballots which are not accepted, recorder's office contracts voters to correct deficiencies on envelope.
No, there should be a bottom one, record contact. So the line going up from the bottom, recorder's office contacts voters to correct deficiencies on envelope. Which one? Okay, so then the recorder back and knows which ones. So then, are they then adding that a voter has submitted an early ballot? After it passes that secondary check, or they call the people, they get somebody's nana or tata or aunt or uncle.
I think what you're saying, Tom, is that underneath that recorder's office contacts, there has to be a split there. One is the ballot is retained, or it's redlined at that point, or it goes over to be bundled.
Yeah,
Yes, that's why
That's what I'm saying.
flipping.
should be another one.
Does that make
under-
sense,
Yeah,
Jeremy?
Yes, recorder notes which about Turner flipping them. The next one going, so recorder notes which voters have returned early ballots. The next one going down, you contacts voters that they have deficiencies. To the left, and have that same arrow going up, but then that bottom box would also be going down. So if they're not accepted, that's where it dead ends.
Yeah, you kind of need like a yes/no sort of thing in there. Is it accepted, then it goes to bundling. If
So-
it's not accepted,
And
they
instead of
retain it
using
and
the-
dispose of it however they want.
Yeah, instead of using the term accepted on here,
Yeah.
signature verified
Mm-hmm.
would be probably more correct.
Verified, yeah.
So we're in the two rows, in the two columns that we have, where it says recorder bundles, early ballots with an early list around each bundling list. Okay, that should be verified early ballots. To me. That verbiage makes more sense to me. Then over on the other side, recorder retains ballots which are not verified.
Yeah.
Okay, then you go down here, recorder contacts voters to correct deficiencies on the envelopes. If they put them, they go back, note it, and then they go back down the right-hand side and get bundled into what goes to the elections department. And then out of the bottom of that, recorder's office, if they can't ballot verified and stored by recorder's office.
Yeah.
And I think that's where if I flip those boxes, then it dead ends there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would, I would leave that recorder retains ballots which are not accepted. I would say recorder retains ballots which are not verified. Then you go down to the next step, recorder's office contacts voters to correct deficiencies. That's when they're verifying the signature. So if they get the signature verified, it goes back up there to the third block down, and then it goes through the process on the right-hand side. If they can't verify them, then they bundle them up and keep them somewhere.
Yeah, well, that somewhere thing is what.
Where
I would-
is somewhere?
My inquiring mind would want to know what happens to those ballots that are unacceptable. In other words, what's their disposition? Do they just get bundled somewhere and they end up,
Yeah.
in the treasurer's vault? Or do they shred them?
Yeah,
That's a recorder question.
Yes.
Yeah.
yep,
Well, it sounds like there's several different kinds of ballots at that point. There's people you couldn't verify the signature because it looks too different.
Mm-hmm,
But then if there's something missing that they didn't write on the envelope too,
right.
then it would have its own category.
Mm-hmm.
And they would probably be sorted by what was wrong with them too.
Yeah, they have to keep track of those numbers and put them on the canvas report. So
Right, so
they have to know, they have to have separate piles for whatever reason. The question, my only thing is what happens after that.
Yeah.
So all the ballots have been counted, they certify the election, what happens to those unacceptable ballots? We know what happens to the acceptable, those that were tabulated, but we don't know about that other batch. Does that make sense?
yeah, so on this, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So on the slide 9, change that word accepted to verified. That makes more sense to
Verified is
me.
how it looks in the last block. They call it verified early ballots.
Yeah,
Or
It
at
is.
least-
They're probably just used interchangeably, but I can switch those to verified. I don't think that's a.
and then verified in that one next to recorded retains ballots which are not verified. Then recorder's office contacts voters to correct deficiencies on the envelope. That's where they do their verification process. If they can verify it, it swings back up and goes through the process of the verified ones. And if not, they're stored in a vault somewhere. Okay.
Which I can get a clear answer to that from them and just add it
Okay.
to the end of this. So.
And then the physical turnover, which is block 7, happens on page 9. Yep,
That's the last.
yep. Okay. So the other item that the recorder presented back in July was the whole list maintenance act tasks. These are all part of the electoral process. But this is something I don't think shows up anywhere in the flow chart.
It doesn't. And one of the reasons for that is while voter registration, of course, is part of this, it's difficult because it's ongoing. Like, there isn't, this process, it can't be something that starts with candidate filing, ends with the canvas. For every single election, you have this process that you follow. Voter registration is just continuous and never ending. So
But it's still part of the overall electoral process.
defined very broadly, yes.
Yeah,
It's
very
just,
broadly,
it's,
I would say.
it's hard to put
That's why we do.
Yeah,
in here. I think the best, this is just me, but it's difficult to put voter registration in a flow chart like this other than just the stuff that we have. People are registered to vote, their data is uploaded in the poll books for election day, or the list is used to send out ballots.
it's almost like we need a separate flow chart just for.
Or
voter
I would
registration.
think
For
something,
voter registration and voter roll maintenance.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so that is part of it, because if that's ongoing, then the voter rolls that are handed over to print ballots, to print, early ballots, to set up the same day ballots that you guys process, oh, you know, the templates that you guys build. So that whole registration, voter registration and voter roll maintenance is a big hole in this whole thing. So if you look at the overview on page 1 of the flow chart, the first 2 steps, register to vote either online, filling out a voter register, submitting it to the mail or in person. Recorder's office verifies voters eligible to register to vote. What we're missing there, so should they still be maintained on the AEVL? You know? All, you know, and these list maintenance tasks,
It's almost like you need an arrow to another flow chart. Say, see, blah, 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 you know, another flow
yeah,
chart.
you can't incorporate it in the current one that you have, but
Yeah.
it's gotta be something where there is an iterative process that goes on in the recorder's office, or there should be, to maintain a clean voter really bad. And when it gets time to mail out books loaded with the voter list, or is it just held in one central location, and is it downloaded to the e-poll books as you pull up a voter's registration?
They're downloaded to the e-poll books before they go out.
So, there's some point in time where, and I don't know if it's in here or not, do we put in here where the e-poll books are loaded?
Yes.
In the step? There
Yes,
is,
it's
okay.
in a step somewhere.
But
I think it's
still-
mentioned a couple times.
Yeah, but still even at that time, because early vote elections, Monday night
Right.
before elections, the e-poll books have already been deployed. So the county recorder, after early voting ends, they have to update their master database. And then they have to create a copy, a dump file that's sent over to elections. And that dump file then gets uploaded. I don't know who does that, by the way. That is a question I have. Who does, you receive a dump file from the recorder, and then they hand it over to you. You guys put it up on the cloud.
It's
Somebody puts it up.
actually loaded from them.
Okay,
Yes.
so they do it directly.
Yes,
Okay.
now
That's
on
probably the
dump file.
Thelios guy then, he probably does that for them, I would imagine. So at that point, now you have inconsistency with what's on the e-poll book and what's up on the cloud. So they have, the very first thing, no matter how you slice it, is they're gonna essentially either have to send down a brand-new copy of the voter roll, which is gonna have minimal data on it, I'm assuming, or.
Yeah, at least
they have
where
to-
it identifies the people that have already cast a ballot
Yeah,
through early voting.
exactly. Or then they have to send, it's either the full Monty, or else they send out a Delta file.
It's basically a change file
A change
for
file.
any of those
Right.
updates, yes.
So I don't know how that process goes on in terms of, it gets down to a point in time sort of thing. But yeah, when the e-poll books are turned on, no way to escape it. E-poll book's gonna have to be updated with current, whether it's a
Process when,
or the whole file.
center, so is that part of the poll book, when the poll workers at a
So it
voting
is.
center
They
turns
don't-
on their e-poll books, it gets a dump from the cloud?
Yes, so the entire, of course, voter registration is loaded onto the e-poll books initially before they go out. That's all the voters. Now, of course, like you're saying, early voting happens continuously. So the recorder's office updates those files so it will reflect voters who have already turned in their early ballot going forward at several different periods up into that Monday night. So the poll workers, we do have them turn on the e-poll books when they set up for Monday night testing. They start getting changes then, and then, of course, election day morning. Which
You know-
changes are, of course, automatically.
Because even after, and there's an end of early, in my world, that's a huge vulnerability, because even after the end of early voting, you still have ballot processing going on Country Club by the county, by the recorder, scanning ballots.
Signature
saying
verification.
This person voted.
Signature verification.
So they,
Signature verification, right, all of that,
they
so.
do cut it off before, so when
Oh,
he
they
sends
do.
us, when he sends us that last file Monday night, that is going to be everybody. They don't do it during the day.
Okay.
Which would potentially conflict with that.
So they stop scanning ballots then after Monday night, or after
Yes.
the cloud
That is
is
my
up,
understanding.
AWS
Yes,
is
they're not.
updated, and then you're, until what point, do you know?
I believe the next day,
The
once
next
they've
day.
gotten the data from our poll book saying who
Okay.
checked in. So then
Right.
if they get a ballot the next day, they can look
Well,
at the
that's
data.
great
says they're
information to have, right there, it really is, because otherwise, you know, I look at it and go, oh, man, it's a mess. Okay, that's good to know. It would be nice, well, it would be nice if it was in here to show that, but again, that's getting the recorder involved. I look at things, see, my problem, Jeremy, is I look at things from a different viewpoint. I'm a data guy, so I think about things like that normally people won't even know about. They just know it happens, they don't know how. I'm kind of a how guy. Okay, I'm gonna make some notes here for me.
So the one, so really, we've got everything that was presented in the slide deck in the recorder's office, basically on slide 9 of this.
Yes.
What we don't have from the recorder's office is the voter registration list maintenance overview.
Yeah, and that, of course, like you were saying, this flow chart, it's difficult to, put it in there. Of course, that's gonna be up to the recorder. I don't know if they're interested in doing a similar flow chart. You could list maintenance. So if you wanted to just add, for example, this attachment with the list maintenance or any other documents they may have to it, but
Right now, we're gonna put this down as a shortfall. No voter registration database maintenance is included.
Yeah, there are several items, really. This is, a lot of what goes on in my head is really recorder-type activities.
Yeah.
You know, they have to generate a list to Runbeck, and there's some interaction there with Runbeck. Runbeck does the address verification. We can do it here, but for some reason they don't. So what's that interaction? You know, the recorder really should have a representative here, I think, to help answer some of these questions.
Yeah.
Because they are part of the understanding of how it works process.
Okay, so there's a couple slight things on, I guess, slide 9, Jeremy.
okay, yeah.
You got those? Okay. Then, so for the, next item where we had the, statutory requirements and the EPM. So this is So a lot of this stuff, where you don't have a statute, and I equates in every block, which it really, the statute and requirement was the Army my time in the Army. The statutory requirement was the Army regulation. The Department of Army pamphlet that went along with the regulation was the how-to manual. So I see, like everything on page 1, where you got mail-in voters, you got the ARS, you got early voting and election day. Everything below that comes out of the how-to manual. So it's either from the Secretary of State's election procedure manual, or it's how you do it internally.
We used to say the right way, the wrong way, and the way we do it here.
Yeah. So, have you been able to look at the updated EPM yet? To see where there might be some changes in this?
I have looked at it. I don't see many changes to this, other than like page numbers, when they do it. But as far as structural changes to a lot of this stuff, I don't think there's.
They
Okay.
haven't approved it.
Right.
They still haven't approved it.
Right.
There's lawsuits and everything else, so I got a feeling we're gonna be going around this one for a while. We'll be
Yep.
using
The 2019,
2019 for next year, I would expect. We'll
You
see.
never know.
Yeah.
But most of the changes aren't, I guess, this sort of stuff. That isn't, there's not really a whole lot of question about all of these
right,
processes.
yeah, I don't, the elections to see a whole lot of changes in your internal processes within the elections
Not for
department.
us, no.
I think a lot of the stuff that went on in the legislature was really kind of targeting voter registration votes.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, even like here, on, the return mail, voters number 3, A3, 16544, it was passed and implemented, but now there are lawsuits on that one,
Yeah,
because it has to do with cleaning up the voter rolls. And it's gonna affect people immediately if they implemented it when it was supposed to be. So I see the arguments on both sides, but it needs to, I don't know. I've contacted 2 representatives now. Is 544 in full force? And the answer is no.
two, I mean, legislators?
Yeah. Normally in code, when you, if something is gonna begin on a certain day, it will say that right in the ARS. Beginning, blah, 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 blah. Well, that wasn't included in this one. So making reference to it here, I don't know. Anyway, we move on.
Okay, so if and when this ever gets updated, then we'll see some updates to this as far as the references go. Okay, missing processes and procedures from the flow chart. We've already identified 2. What happens to undeliverable ballots? Correct? No voter registration database maintenance is included in here. What else do you see is missing?
Well, that's a big question. Yeah, I think, the process with Runbeck kind of needs to be cleared up a little bit.
And where does that show up?
That's going to be at the beginning way even before early ballots. I mean, it's under database maintenance to some extent, but they have to, before they can even send out any ballots, they have to send a list up to Runbeck. So,
So the process
yeah,
for ballot printing and preparation, right?
right. It just depends on how detailed you want to get. It's like, does Runbeck actually count the ballot? I think they come in what, Jeremy, in the cages, packages of 100? The blank stock?
The blank stock, it's like shrink wrapped in packs of 100, but I think the boxes have like 900 or 1,000 total.
Right,
sheets of
right.
paper.
Who does the counting? Is it a machine count or is it a hand count? Before
I'm not
it's
sure.
shrunk
I
wrapped?
imagine it'd be machine, but I don't know.
So it must be done up in Runbeck then. I don't know. It's just stuff like that, it just depends on how detailed you want to get.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much overlap
Yeah.
between what the recorder does and what,
So-
not in all areas, but in some areas, there's a lot of overlap.
So in the interaction with Runback, does the elections department have any interaction with them, or is it mostly the recorder's office?
I mean, we interact with them certainly as far as.
The templates for the ballots?
Templates for the ballots, the ordering the blank ballots.
Does that
all
go
of
from
that.
you to the recorder and up to the Runback, or do you directly to Runback?
I believe it goes straight from us to Runbeck. Or the districts and all of that are correct the whole time.
Mhm. Yeah, that's one of those interlaced type activities. Because the recorder needs ballots too. I mean, they have to have ballots at the vote locations or paper
I
stock.
believe they
and-
use the same way as we do this
They
time.
use on-demand
with-
stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they have pre-printed ballots at early voting.
I don't believe they did for this
No.
election.
I've had it printed for me,
Yeah.
and I, voted
Well, it was all
last
mail
year.
in this time around anyway, except for the bail
No,
election.
but I mean, in '22, I did in the primaries, I voted at an early voting location,
Mm-hmm,
the week before the election day.
Yeah.
So they printed the ballot on demand.
right, right.
Well, I think now that you can vote at any voting location instead of only your own precinct, they can't pre-print because you don't necessarily know who's gonna show up.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's emergency ballots that they have in a separate box in case power outage or whatever the issue is, they can pull one out. But that in itself is a mess. You need to have ballots. When you think about it, you've got people who can vote anywhere, so you need to have ballots from every
Do
single.
you have ballots
location.
from every precinct, just in case?
We did not in this election. Initially,
Right.
with in 2022, the general, we did. The challenge with that, of course, is when you have 1,000 ballots, if you had just 5 of each one, now you've got 5,000.
Yeah.
So, for this past election and what we anticipate going forward is we are not pre-printing ballots and giving them. We will have multiple printers at every one, and the express vote acts as a contingency as well.
Yeah. It's just like you fix one little issue and then another one opens up. So if you don't have emergency ballots and you still lose power, you can't, it's a problem.
Well, the
No
more,
matter how you.
the more technology you throw into it, the
Oh, it
more
just makes it
complicated it
worse.
gets, and the
Yeah.
harder to manage it
It
gets,
is. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I don't know, I think the process for the ballot printing and preparation to run back is what shortfall too that we need to see in here. What actions are taken, because it is part of the electoral process.
Mm-hmm, it is. See, I believe, for example, at the recorder's office, when they create a new record and they manually type it in, they'll get a drop-down list of available zip codes. I haven't found any issues with zip codes here. But again, in talking with Marion and Gabriella, they test and it goes up to Runbeck. Runbeck does address verification up there. They don't do it here in Tucson. So then what happens? So they find some anomalies because it's Runbeck that I guess has an agreement with the post office where they can use post office tools to verify an actual address. So like my street is trail, but they always abbreviate it TRL.
Yeah,
So if I
same,
type
fine.
in trail, every single time I try to submit an order for something, it comes back with TRL.
Right.
That's the preferred one. So what happens at that point? If Runbeck finds issues like they just, there has to be another interaction with the recorder. Do they just print it the way it is, or do they send the list back for correction and then resubmit the entire package? You know, that would be nice to know.
So really the interaction with the recorder's office.
Right. I remember, Tom, you asked the question back in July whether or not the recorder would participate in this process. I think all Gabriella said, well, we've got a meeting next week or something, we'll see. I think was kind of the response. I don't remember.
Regarding this?
Did they ever, have you ever had any interaction with them, Jeremy?
Regarding this?
Yeah.
Initially, several months ago, I know with the flow chart, I ran several of the
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
for the recorder by them and was talking with Hillary, and a lot of that stuff came from them, just because it's their office. But as far as whether or not they're going to come, or,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Anything else missing that you can think of? Nothing, Arthur?
Not at this time.
Okay,
I think I'm good.
okay.
Yeah.
Anybody got a proposed future agenda item? If we could get those changes in here, Jeremy, especially on slide 9,
Right.
because I would like to present this whole thing to the EIC in January. And then we can discuss those shortfalls with the office then.
So essentially, what I need to do as far as the flow chart for the next meeting is make those, not necessarily corrections, but changes and insert some more information on page 9. And then I can reach out to the recorder and ask, so what happens on deliverable ballots, and then what does the recorder do with rejected ballots after the election, and then I can add boxes with that in the
Okay.
places. So I should be able to, at least for the second one, definitely have a pretty simple answer to that.
Anything else? No?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.